Well, if you're Iowa, you're saying to yourself, awfully hard to win when you rush for 1 yard, cough up 4 turnovers, and get sacked 8 times. The storyline for this one, certainly not the Michigan offense. We're going to get to that in a moment. But it was the Michigan D today making a big statement.
And credit Don Brown, their defensive coordinator, for mixing up a lot of those looks, and the Michigan front in particular, changing the way they went about attacking and really executing that game plan. And it comes down to a couple different times they gave some pressure looks to Iowa. And what they were doing, when you take a look at what we're going to show you on film, is they're covering up the center and both guards. So you can see this front. When you do that, you force each one of those 5 offensive linemen to be on one-on-one matchups. It makes it then difficult for them to deal with number 44, the linebacker at the second level, who's going to be blitzing, to pick him up and make that adjustment. And so that's why you end up getting a free runner to the quarterback, because at the snap of the football, all those linemen they're already responsible for someone else. And so you know how difficult that is to deal with, Matt, when you're a quarterback back there and you get free runners coming at you. If you're Nate Stanley and you're not the most fleet of foot, there's not really much you can do at that point.
I know exactly what that feels like. And Nate Stanley had no chance in this game. And coming into the game, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions, playing really good football. But like to your point, Don Brown had a great game plan. How do you attack this offensive line? We know Nate Stanley's not going to beat us running the football. And the secondary just played really good. You heard Gus and Joel talk about just making plays on the ball, something they haven't done all season long. And this was just a great job by this back four. 3 interceptions for Nate Stanley. That front, like you said, Brady did a great job. But here, these are just plays. They're just making plays. They're making football plays. And that's something they hadn't done yet defensively. It was a great job by this unit.
And then they got the win. Most importantly, you got the W, because that's what we wanted to see out of this team. And for me, I was looking at that last drive because I felt like that was a defining moment for this team. Are they going to be able to finish this game? Because it started to feel like that Iowa could come up and maybe steal this win from them, but they didn't. They got the win. Big-time win for Michigan. I know sometimes we sit up here and we're very critical of the Michigan football team, but we got to give credit to where credit is due. Defense played great, and again, they got the W.
We're critical because we think they're better than what they're playing right now.
And they've got a brutal schedule coming up. You see it right there, at Illinois, at Penn State, and then Notre Dame, and some other issues going down the line. The biggest issue, though, Coach, for Michigan right now is their offense. I take a look at their rushing yards, 120 rushing yards today, 147 through the air. So the numbers are pedestrian, but the plays are just, they're not bringing any pump. There's not those big explosive plays that we should be seeing from a program like this.
Yeah, before you go to the offense, I made a comment. You find out about your teams not when you're winning, but when you get hit right in the face. They got hit as hard as you can 2 weeks ago against Wisconsin. You have to, that was a big win today.
Yeah, it was.
That was a huge win. You saw the fight. That's what you expect from the Wolverines, is fight like that, and they did. They fought and they won. It was not pretty, and when I look at their offense, they've had 1 run all season of over 20 yards. Just wait to say that again. They've had 1 run of over 20 yards with those athletes. And then they've only had 2 passes of plus 50. Offenses are not good enough to drive the ball consistently. They're just not. There's something, there'll be a penalty, there'll be an offsides, there'll be a turnover, something, a sack, and then you can't win the big ones like that. They won a big one today with great defense. I will say this about the defense, is that Don Brown, when he first got in the league, he was very creative on defense. Then they started, they were about as talented as anyone in the Big Ten. It wasn't quite, they let him play. You looked like, when I'm going to go back and watch this, it looked like he was back to when he first got in the league. They were all over the place on defense. They're very hard to block when they're all over the place like that.
Wolverines get a win that you labeled as must-win in the pregame show. Iowa, they fall for the first time this season. They go to 4-1.